What's it like to live as a female expat in Asia? Will an Asian woman steal my marriage away from me? And how do I go about making friends in my new place? Well, if those questions or any of those any questions about being an expat are of interest to you, it is great to have you in my company. My name is Wendy, and for more than 3 decades, I have lived and worked in 5 different countries in Asia. And I still live and work in Asia, now in Thailand on this very bright sunny day. And today I want to talk about something that my t-shirt kind of refers to. This t-shirt says, "Free the house elves." And I want to talk about domestic help and cheap labor, because it would be disingenuous of me to not bring up this topic, because it is a factor if you are living in Asia, and particularly in Southeast Asia. One of the great advantages, one of the selling points, is that when you live in a place like Thailand or Malaysia or even in Hong Kong or Singapore, you're going to be able to probably afford domestic help that would be otherwise quite expensive or out of reach in your home country. And look, there's nothing wrong with that. That is how the system is worked out. But let's talk about some of the factors around that so that you feel prepared, and maybe you've got some thoughts that you'd like to leave down in the comments and experiences that you've had. Because after more than 3 decades of living in Asia, I can tell you that there are some pluses for sure and some little kind of bumps along the way that we need to talk about. So first of all, who are these people who are coming into your home? Well, if you are in Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, obviously in the Philippines, there'll probably be Filipino or Filipino if you've got a guy, but mostly Filipino. And there are literally hundreds of thousands of women, foreign domestic workers from the Philippines, working all throughout the world, and particularly in Southeast Asia. And these women, on the whole, are actually quite qualified. You'd be surprised. They are actually fully qualified teachers in their home country. They might be nurses. They'll have other experiences. But the salaries in the Philippines and the situation in the Philippines is so dire for a lot of people that it's actually advantageous for them to go and live in a different country and work as a maid in your house than it is for them to try and earn a salary in their home country, and they send the money home. Some of them have been there for years and years and years doing it. They're very experienced, and some are newbies, kind of fresh off the plane. The advantage, of course, is that in the Philippines, everybody speaks good English, American style English, and so that's easy. Communication is easy. But if you're in a country like Thailand where those people cannot get visas, you're not going to get yourself a Filipino domestic helper. You're going to get a Thai, or cheaper is you're going to get somebody from Myanmar, a Burmese, who will come and work in your house. And this is the same of other countries as well, like Laos or Vietnam. They will not be Filipino domestic helpers. And there we might have some language issues. So this is the first thing you need to think about. And what starts to happen, you've come over, you think, oh, this is great. I'm going to get a cleaner in 3 days a week. It's going to cost me pennies compared to what I would normally pay. That's fantastic. And you discover that through language barriers and through other things as well, expectations, you might start to get a little bit frustrated, because the people who are not familiar with the way that we do things, I'm going to put it that way, they mean well, they want to do the right thing, but they don't do it the way that you expect. And if you don't have the language skills that they have, and you can't communicate, it can cause some real problems. So you expect that a floor should be washed X way, or you want something to happen a certain way, and it's not happening that way, and you start to get resentful. And then you start to sound like that really revolting expatriate woman who complains about her maid all day. Don't be that person, okay? So you need to think about, if there's a way that you like to do things, or you like to have things done, and you're paying somebody else to do it, don't expect them just to know. You have to train them. You have to say, this is how I like things. This is how it's going to be. They do not want you to be unhappy. So you need to take responsibility for that. You don't just, oh, well, that's how they are. No, they just might not know that. And I have seen that for decades and decades. I have had conversations with people who've said, oh, she's very kind, but she's hopeless with this, and she ruined these clothes, and she did this thing, and you become quite sort of resentful that the person that you're paying a very low salary to, comparatively, to come and do the dirty work that you don't want to do, you're a bit narky at it, and she just doesn't know how you want it. So that's the first thing. If you are in the position to have domestic help, the best thing you can do is sit with that person and say, or show them and say, this is how I want the beds done. You know, if they're minding the kids, this is how we do it. This is the food that we want, all of that kind of stuff, to give them a chance for them to do their job properly so that you're happy and they're happy too. And this brings up the other thing. Of course, apart from cleaning, people who are, you know, who you can hire in Asia, they can be nannies, they can live in your house and help out with the kids or come part-time. They can be nursing staff as well. That is a real bonus, I have to say, particularly if you're, you know, getting older or you've got a parent who's older and you want them to move over. You can hire a nurse, a fully qualified, excellent nurse, for much cheaper than you would in your home country. You can have a driver, you can have a cook, you can have, if you're really lucky, you can have someone who comes and does massages for you every day. Good ones, not the Jeffrey Epstein ones, not those ones. So these are all of the things that you can have. But understand first what it is exactly you want that person to do and explain it to them. Don't make yourself get into a situation where you get very frustrated or you find yourself churning through helpers and it's all their fault. Because if you're not doing the work yourself, you have to take responsibility for that. Now, live in or live out? Well, that depends, of course, on your housing situation. So when I had young children, I always had live-in Filipino domestic helpers, and that was great because I was working and I had 3 kids, and that was really terrific. And in Hong Kong, I'm sorry to say, they have these tiny, I mean, they are shoe cupboard type bedrooms for the maids, or at least in the apartments that I lived in. But that's how we worked it, and they had, you know, one day off, and it's not a great situation. But if they are prepared to do the work, and you're a good and kind person, and you pay them, you know, the right amount of money, then that's all fine. So you can have the live-in, but a lot of people choose for live out as well. And you should usually pay more money if you've got somebody living out because they've got to find accommodation, or you provide accommodation for them. Somebody living in, if she's a really gorgeous young girl and you're in a relationship, or a handsome young guy and you're in a relationship, is your relationship in trouble? Well, I've done another whole video about this, about, you know, the way that we always sort of tend to look at the women and say, oh, this woman has stolen my someone, and we never really blame the male or the other partner, even the other female partner. So I think you need to look at that video if you're worried about that, because it doesn't run one way. None of this runs one way. So no, I don't think it's a major problem. You know, you interview a lot of people before you bring somebody on board. And if you're not comfortable with having somebody live in the house, then just ask them to live outside and make sure you provide accommodation for them. All right. Another thing is, as I mentioned, for the nursing situation, if you've got parents that you're worried about, and I know lots of people who do this, and they are willing to come and spend time in the country with you, like I said, you can actually get, or somebody who's very ill, you can actually get somebody to come and do the nursing for you. And if that's not occurred to you before, let that occur to you, because that's a really good option. If you're not keen to put mum in a nursing home and you'd like to have her close by, particularly as we age out ourselves, as we get older ourselves, then that is something that you really want to think about. So there are lots of factors in this. So there's costs, which are not much. Okay, that's one point. But there's also your expectations and your reality. And you need to be real about what it is that you want. Now, are there sometimes awkward situations or difficult situations? Let me share a little story with you. Something that happened to me, and it hurt my feelings a lot, but I had to accept it. There was a time when I was living in Malaysia. I had 3 children, and my youngest was quite young. And I accompanied my then husband, to England because he had to go there for work. And I went along. It was a business trip, and they said I could go along, so I went along. It was a couple of weeks. And I left my 3 kids in my home with my live-in Filipino domestic helper, lovely lady, and the dog and everything. When I came back, now my youngest was young. I'm going to say probably 6 months old. And I know that sounds outrageous, but you know, that's what happens. And so left this baby, and I came back, and the baby wouldn't come to me. After 2 weeks, the baby wouldn't come. I got out, oh, I'm here, mummy's here, and went to have the cuddle, and the baby wouldn't come to me. And that really hurt. That bit hard, you know, because the 6-month-old had been with my helper for the last 2 weeks and had bonded with the helper and wasn't remembered me but wasn't entirely sure. That does also happen if you're a mum, particularly with young kids. Your kids will have a good if you've got a good helper, they'll have a really good relationship with that helper, and you actually want that. You don't want the kids to not have that good relationship, but do not be surprised if that stings a little bit. Right? They don't love the domestic helper more than you, but they also love the domestic helper because they're in their lives and they help them with things. And that's a funny thing too. Before I go, back in the day, from the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, we just used to call these people maids, but we don't call them that anymore. We call them domestic helpers. So there's a little tip for you. So I hope that kind of opens your eyes a little bit to a few things to think about. Certainly living in a country where you can have all of these services provided for you, that is excellent. And I put my hand on my heart and say that I've never ironed anything probably ever since I left home. And that's my like, I sit there and I go like that even now. I do have cleaners that come, but I don't have somebody living in. It's just me now in the house. But I do send my laundry out because it's actually cheaper and easier for me to send it out and have it come back ironed and pressed and ready to pop into the thing. Is that wrong? I don't know. That's one of the advantages of being an expatriate woman. I kind of like it. Anyway, I hope that helps. And if you've got any questions about this stuff, if you think I'm totally out of whack and I need a slap around the head, by all means, leave a message. Don't forget to like and subscribe so we can grow the channel a little bit more. If there's anything you'd like me to talk about, a topic you'd like me to cover, please do also leave that below. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And don't forget to free the house elves. Bye.